Hey everybody, welcome back to Crazy Short Hairy Dude. I am your host, the Crazy Short Hairy Dude, and on today's episode, we are going to be talking about a very pivotal moment in not only Texas history but really world history. Um, so today, 190 years ago, 190 to be exact, um, was the first day of the 13-day Battle of the Alamo, 13-day siege. So during the Texas Revolution, that started in late 1835 and went into uh, about halfway through 1836, roughly. Um, um, Up to this point, the Texans really hadn't faced a lot of opposition so much. I mean, there has been some fights and some battles, but they've won like, every single time. They won at uh, the Battle of Goliad, and they won little skirmishes here and there. And in October, they had a huge victory by defeating General Cos and his men in San Antonio, or San Antonio de Bejar, as it was known back then. Um, and so the Texans had been able to uh, drive General Cos and his men out, um, which, to be fair, General Cos only lost 50 men, but still, loss is loss. I mean, so General Cos is heading south towards Mexico, and unbeknownst to the Texans and General Cos, the Mexican leader himself, uh, the Mexican dictator, really, uh, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, is marching north towards Texas with a pretty big army at the time. It was, um, a few thousand troops. Um, and at the time, the Texas defenders there in San Antonio and at the Alamo only numbered about 150. Now, later on, they would get a few more in, and I think by the end, the number reached about 189. So, anyway, so on February 23rd, um, Santa Anna and his army marches into San Antonio. And Texas scouts had reported that they were coming in, so Colonel Travis and Jim Bowie, who were the two commanders at the Alamo, Colonel Travis led um, um, the the enlisted men, and Jim Bowie led the volunteers. Um, so between the two of them, they had everything covered. And according to tradition, Travis and Bowie did not get along very well. They often butted heads, but they did wind up working well together, as it seems. So anyway, this day they gather up all of their men. They get into the Alamo along with um, their families. All the women and children. Now, Jim Bowie and Travis, they didn't have families of their own that were there. Uh, Jim Bowie had lost his wife, um, and I think he might have had some sons too that he had lost. I can double check that, but um, to illness. And Travis had recently been divorced from his wife. Um, but anyway, but there was a lot of men there who had their families with them, so everybody gathered up into the Alamo, which had been refortified um, by the Texans after the Mexicans had left, and it was pretty well fortified, honestly. You know, it had several cannons, including an 18 pounder, which was a pretty big cannon back then, and that one was at one of the corners facing the town in order to defend the town if need be. Um, well, when the Mexican army rolled up, Jim Bowie and the chief engineer there at the Alamo, whose name was Green B. Johnson, yes, his first name was Green, uh, they rode out to meet with Mexican officials to see what the terms would be. Well, Santa Anna his terms were surrender at discretion. Those of you who don't know what that means, surrender at discretion is basically, um, I will decide your fate. If you surrender at discretion to me, I will decide your fate. Um, upon hearing this, Colonel Travis ordered that the 18-pounder be fired. Fire the cannon. Um, so that was their response. Um, a very Texan thing to do there. Like, no, I'll blow up something. Um, so yeah, that response just kind of solidified everything there, and General Santa Anna was very angry. And honestly, I think he was looking for an excuse to do this anyway. But he raised a red flag, which meant no quarter. So no mercy would be shown to whoever lost. Uh, yeah. So things were looking pretty rough. Now, the reason why Santa Anna wanted to take San Antonio and why San Antonio was so important back then and the Alamo was so important back then was because it was a central location that was key to any kind of movement into Texas at the time, um, especially if you were wanting to move further east into the colonies and take them out. You had to take control of San Antonio and the Alamo first. Texans knew this, Santa Anna knew this, and so Travis and Bowie, Crockett, Davy Crockett was at the Alamo too, and all the other defenders, they held them off. So that was their goal: to hold off the Mexican army until help arrives, or we meet our end. That was their idea. So that's what happened on this day, February 23rd, 1836. Tomorrow we'll get into some more stuff of what happened the following days. Um, so yeah, these videos aren't going to take very long. Um, also, fun little thing. This flag right here is a replica of the flag that flew above the Alamo. Now it says 1824 on it because the Texans were upset that Santa Anna had basically just tore up and threw out the Constitution of 1824, which the Texans liked. It had a lot of different freedoms in there that they were fighting for. Um, and Santa Anna was, no, no. So, yeah, they were upset over that. So that was hanging above, or flying above the Alamo at the time. Um, and yeah, so we'll get more into the different uh, people that were involved in the fighting and talk about some key figures like William Travis and Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett, James Fannin, Juan Seguin. We'll talk about Sam Houston a little bit, who wasn't there at the Alamo, but certainly plays a huge role in Texas history. We'll talk a little bit more about Santa Anna and uh, his machinations. Yeah, so we'll get more into this as we keep going. We're also going to keep doing our series of the Hound of the Baskervilles. I'll do another video later this week on that. So, anyway, until next time, y'all have a blessed night and a blessed day, and Jesus loves you, and remember the Alamo.